Hello, babes. My name is Nadia Sayapin, and I am an author of this book, The Rebels, which I will be reading for you today. Now, I am reading this, in case you're not aware, because I have a friend named Jay with cerebral palsy who has excellent taste in stories because she likes this book. However, being unable to read it, I'm doing it for her. If you're new here, welcome. Glad you found me. Are you okay? Seriously, I am tiny. If you found me, something's going on with your algorithm. But if you are brand spanking new and you're interested in dystopian female led action, it's basically Red Dawn with women, I would recommend starting at the beginning. If you're not sure if you're going to like this, welcome. Stick around. Let's see how it goes. Because we are on chapter 22. Now, you will notice that this is wholly unedited. And that is because Jay thinks my facial expressions are funny. When either I stumble, I find something that I personally think is a mistake, whether or not it actually is, because this is, semi-subjective. There is foul language. There is frequently trigger warnings. I don't remember what they are in advance. I'm sorry. It's been a few years since I wrote this book. Anyway, I don't think there's anything major in this chapter, chapter 22. So no trigger warnings for this one, but many of the others do. Anyway, let's get started. The Rebels, written by yours truly, chapter 22, almost halfway through. We took Steve's Chimera truck this time. More storage space, and we'd have the opportunity to actually blend in. Dereva refused to let anyone else behind the wheel. We'd taught the girl to drive, and it seemed we'd created a monster. I smothered a smile watching her competently handling the big truck. Seahorse and Sirius would get started on stalking Steve while we were gone, and hopefully we'd have an ambush option or two within the next couple weeks. Everybody was getting antsy to fight, and we knew we couldn't wait too long. Didn't want Steve getting complacent. Or someone to go off half-cocked. Just as we were pulling out, Amana came racing out of the lair, shouting and waving a scrap of paper. "Wait!" she cried. "Wait, por favor! La lista!" Dereva brought us to a crashing halt, and Phoenix hopped out from the back. "What? Oh, thanks!" She perused it for a moment, then looked at the other woman. "We probably won't find everything, you know." "See, I know. As much as you can." Amana smiled broadly at her. "So you don't forget, eh?" "Can we go now?" I complained through the open door. "You're letting all the warm air out." Phoenix cheerfully gave me the finger as she hopped back in the truck, calling out a last thank you to Amana. As quickly as that, we were underway. "Man, she doesn't ask for much," Phoenix commented a few minutes later after she thoroughly read the list. "Antibiotics, aspirin, the usual food, more clothes, sewing needles? And what are the safety pins for?" "Our new pads," Dereva informed her. "Fuck!" Taking advantage of dirt roads, they dropped me and River off in the orchards just south and east of Salem, shortly after dark, right next to an area I discovered was actually called Pratum. "I always thought this was called Salem," I said, examining the road map. "Live and learn," Phoenix said, grinning. The drop lay only 15 minutes' drive from Salem, which should take us 2 to 3 hours of walking. We'd spotted Steve twice from a distance, but they never looked at us, and I was more than happy to take advantage of that while it lasted. Bless their unimaginative little hearts, I thought fondly. That's what happens when all creativity is killed. Nobody ever thinks. Dereva and Phoenix dropped us off behind a ragged, dirty white farmhouse in the middle of an orchard, and in the spirit of superstition, we avoided saying goodbye. I hated that word normally, and in these perilous times it was too ominous to use. So we mocked ourselves and each other, promised to meet in 3 days, and they left with Phoenix's parting comment. "Don't get shot in the ass!" I jauntily flipped her the finger as they pulled away. and River and I waited until their taillights disappeared. I turned to the other woman and bowed with a flourish. "Shall we?" River just shook her head and started walking. As we ran, it occurred to me how much I'd improved over the last few months. In September, I'd have been puffed out and dying after a minute or two. Now, I had to slow down for River. While I was breathing hard, I wasn't working like a bellows or feeling like I'd bust a lung. I estimated we still had 4 hours before dawn when we reached the fence. I held River back when she would have made straight for the barrier, motioning her to wait. I took the time to retighten the straps, holding all my holsters down. This time, we went in fully armed minus rifles, and I had 4 handguns, 2 in shoulder holsters, 2 in thighs, plus spare mags in my pockets. I was not risking running out of ammunition again. "Hey," River hissed, poking my arm. "What's that?" I peered in the direction she pointed, my heart sinking. I ain't positive, but I think that's a half-built watchtower. I'd only seen them in movies, but it was a logical step and fit with what Sam told us a month ago. "How many others can you see?" We spotted 2 more, all of them maybe 200 yards apart. I sighed, feeling a weight in my chest at the sight. Wonderful. I reached inside the hollow of the tree, feeling for the bottle Kitten said she'd leave for us. Nothing. I breathed slowly, trying to get my heartbeat under control as my anxiety skyrocketed. "Is everything okay?" River shifted slightly behind me, nervous. "There's nothing in here." I couldn't keep the tightness out of my voice and fought to think. "I'm gonna swing by her house. Maybe she's just sick again." It took a bit of preparation, fixing my holsters so they wouldn't show. I ended up stuffing the thigh holsters and guns into my waistband and zipping my jacket up just a bit higher. Bulky, but a quick bounce test had things shifting without falling out. Kind of like my boobs, so it worked. In order to keep Kitten safe, I left River 2 streets away with the promise to return by midday. I waited tensely in the shrubs outside her house, waited while the men were collected by Steve before dawn, waited while women and kids left in streams that turned into trickles. Then I waited longer. Once I was as sure as I could be that there was no one else left in the house, I gathered up my courage and knocked on the front door. "Come on," I muttered. I realized I was shaking my right hand slightly and forced myself to stop. Old nervous habit. From within the house, I heard a slow, shuffling step, and my hand started twitching again. The door cracked open, revealing a suspicious brown eye. Kitten's jaw dropped when she saw me. "What? How?" "Surprise!" I slipped past her into the house. It smelled just as bad as it had the first time, but with a faint scent of something. My nostrils twitched. "Green?" "1 second. Sorry, I forgot I had the alarm on. It's my timer to go feed the horses, but they'll wait. They're fine." Okay. There was a faint scent of something green? Kitten herself looked terrible. Her lean frame had turned gaunt, cheeks hollowed out by grief and hardship, framed by wispy hair that was mostly white. "You're supposed to be dead!" Kitten finally found her voice. "There was a huge ruckus. Then Steve announced they'd killed some rebels, and I knew it was you!" She began crying, leaning against the wall for support. "We're not dead. Your niece is alive and well, too." I hastily shut the door, catching it before it could slam. "Is it because you thought we were dead that you didn't leave a message?" Kitten lowered her eyes, looking slightly embarrassed. "It's a bit silly of me to encourage a certain behavior against oppressors and then believe those same oppressors so completely, isn't it?" I grinned. It's nice to know we were that big of a thorn in their asses. Anyway, back to business. I've got someone for you to meet. Are you good for a walk?" "Of course." A hint of testiness entered the old woman's voice. "I may look old, but I'm not dead yet. Where is this person?" As I led Kitten to River, we chatted casually, as if none of this shit was even happening. "We're growing vegetables in the house." We found a woman who has heirloom seeds, Kitten told me, smiling conspiratorially. We've got herbs growing too. It's not much yet, but we're getting there. Oh, why did you think we were dead? I asked as I pondered heirloom seeds. I heard about a group of rabble-rousers, was the term used, who randomly started shooting. Kitten leaned on my arm. I figured that was you. But then, Steve, you said you were all killed, and it's hard to disbelieve them. After all, they're an army and you're... A bunch of women? She shook her head. Inexperienced. I've got to work on my contacts. Find ones who will get me the truth the next time. Next time? I opened my eyes wide, striving for innocence. Ha! Kitten snorted. Don't think that whole butter wouldn't melt in my mouth thing will work on me, girl. I've seen the devil in your eyes. Now, who am I meeting? I pointed to where River stepped out from behind the tree. River. She's one of the ones who got out with us last time. She's solid. Got a good head on her shoulders. After the meet and greet, we moved on, walking slowly around the streets so we wouldn't attract any attention. Are you ready to hear what I've got? Kitten asked after a group of Dorothy passed us. Hit me. I don't know exactly how many troops are here. I grimaced at Kitten's first bald statement. Beg pardon. This covers the entire West Coast, she continued. I know there's patrols in Eastern Oregon, but I haven't met anyone from there yet. I think those civilians are in Portland. I inhaled deeply, trying not to panic while Kitten consulted a small book. I've only seen Steve, but I'm finding it very hard to believe they've done everything on their own. However, I have no proof of that. Yet. There's an armory at the old prison west of Lancaster. Good luck getting in there. I don't know anybody who's actually seen it. There's these Hummers. I nodded, the souped-up trucks. She continued. Also tanks and a few that are larger. I think they're called troop transports. Nobody in here knows the exact patrol routes. Kitten shrugged. I know there are patrols outside. Every once in a while the Steves get switched so everyone can learn the terrain. Portland looks a lot like Salem from what I've heard. And these are the only two holding places in Oregon. Yeah, okay. Everywhere else that I know of has been destroyed or is being used as a base for Steve. I don't know anything about Washington or California either. Son of a bitch. I made no effort to hide how I felt about this deluge of information. Right. Shit. What about those structures along the fence? They look like towers or something. Kitten nodded approvingly. Good eye. Not really. Just too many World War II movies. The blueprints say 20 feet high and they'll have 2 men in them with a spotlight and a machine gun. How do you find all this out? River stared at the older woman, impressed. Honestly, I was blown away too by how much she'd learned. Kitten just smiled mysteriously and tapped the side of her nose. What was the deal with that? I never knew what the hell the tapping was supposed to mean. And how will they make the spotlight work? River continued. Kitten waved that away. Oh, that. They'll just use a small flame in front of a large mirror like a lighthouse back in the day. There's nothing in there for the anti-tech thingy to mess with. Anti-tech thingy? The corner of my mouth lifted. What, you haven't learned all about it yet? No, she smacked my arm lightly. I don't know what it is or where. There's a general around here somewhere who might, but Steve is very secretive about him. Kitten noticed my poor attempts to hide laughter and she smacked my arm again. It's not nice to make fun of your elders, Tweedledee. We rounded another corner and entered a small park, empty at this hour. Her name's Captain now, River informed Kitten. We decided it was too embarrassing to be led by somebody named Tweedledee. You know, I said reflectively, that's why the name would have been perfect. Steve would never figure it out. Nobody would. Before I forget, Kitten said, pulling us to a stop amongst a stand of trees. Oregon will be farmed. It's meant to support the rest of the coast. It'd be easier to hit convoys than having to keep sneaking into Salem, I said after a moment. And Kitten bit her lip, then squared her shoulders. You'll hear about it eventually, so better to prepare yourself. My stomach tightened into a knot. Was it about my family? There will be reprisals after you left last time. Steve said they found people who helped you. Traitors, Steve called them. Who? My lips were numb as I thought about the man we met first. A woman and her son. A corpsman sleeping with the woman turned them in. The boy had a story to tell, from what I've been told. All that was officially said is that they were traitors, the woman seduced the corpsman who's been punished. But he's still alive? I interrupted. Mary nodded, and I remembered a little boy that Alex was so reluctant to part with. A tiny, gutsy child. Casey? No. Corey? Yeah, Corey. I turned blindly away from Kitten and River barely stopped me from running into a tree. I held on to it, wanting to puke. I wanted to sit down and cry my heart out, scream at the injustice. Mostly, I wanted to murder a faceless man, to make him bleed, scream, cry, and die as slowly and painfully as I could manage. A hand seized my arm and I knocked it away, barely aware my hand was bleeding, and rounded on the unfortunate soul. Everything was blurry. I saw a white face backing away rapidly, mouth moving, but I heard no words. Another face, closer, terrified but determined. A few words finally filtered through the roaring in my ears, and I finally recognized the person in front of me. River. Calm down, Captain! You need to calm the fuck down! When I saw she had a gun out, held low down by her side, the fury left as quickly as it came, and I slumped down, suddenly exhausted. I dropped my head against my drawn-up knees, shaking like a leaf as color slowly leached back into the world, and tried to come to grips with the fact that my decisions had an effect on more than just myself. It's my fault they're dead, I said thickly. Phoenix wanted to bring them out, but I said no. Clothing rustled next to me and a cool, dry hand brushed my hair back. It's not your fault, girl, Kitten said firmly, composed once more. It's the North Koreans. They invaded us. They shot those people. They'd still be alive if we hadn't come to town, I insisted. I hate to be brutal, but the chances are good they'd have been dead inside a year anyway. Because Steve, she emphasized, came here to subjugate us. You didn't think all the dying would be on their side, did you? Of course not. I tipped my head back, staring up at the cloudy sky, and wished I was at home. River peeked out of the trees, making sure we hadn't been spotted while I had my meltdown. I didn't expect them to pick people to execute either. I thought they'd just hunt us. How are we supposed to keep going knowing every time we do something, innocents will pay? That, Kitten said, looking at me gravely, is the wrong question. The question you should be asking is, can you really stand by and do nothing? She stood up and held a hand out to me. I took it gingerly, mindful of how frightened she'd looked a few minutes ago. What will happen if you do nothing at all? People were taken into the street and shot by the dozens during the first month. Thousands have died from the plague. So you're saying keep going because people die anyway? I'm saying that as of right now, we are as good as dead. You, all of you, are giving us a chance to live. River nodded vigorously. We walked in thoughtful silence. All that's needed for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing, Kitten quoted softly. Keep that in mind. Write it down if you have to, or else we're dead, one way or another. Kitten shook off the strange mood first, giving us the last useful bit of information. Some locations where Steve liked to keep soldiers billeted, and one spot she suspected of being a brothel. It was thin, and everything could change by the time we next came to town, but it was a start. We parted ways shortly after, Kitten being very careful not to ask any questions. I watched her walk away, her steps surer now than they'd been when we started. Deciding it was too dangerous to do our shopping, okay, looting, in Salem, and considering it'd probably been picked cleaner than a carcass, we skipped town that night. Getting to a decent location in daylight, loitering and moseying about to deflect attention, and then finding a place to hide until full dark would have been boring beyond belief, except for the fact that Dorothy monitored the work crews. We figured once we got out, we'd check out a few houses just to the north of us. I vaguely recalled driving through an area that resembled a spread-out suburb, and many of the houses were set back from the road, easy to miss from a car. River had no opinion or knowledge on the matter. "I'm from Grant's Pass," she said. We ever get down that way, we'll make sure you're there." Once we had darkness and the timing of the two-man patrols, I sent River through the fence. She emerged dirtier than ever. This spot had a mud puddle, so we didn't have to cut the fence or pull it up. River made the tree line before I began to crawl. I lay half in, half out, braced on my hands, ready to pull my legs through, when a light suddenly appeared on my right. I froze for a split second, then frantically waved River back and collapsed to the ground. I flipped my hood up to cover my head and buried my face against the ground, extended my right arm forward, sticking my hand alongside a clump of grass. I stretched out my left arm to the side under another bunch of grass and pulled my right leg forward so my foot rested in the puddle. I could hear footsteps now, and I kept my eyes open so I could roughly track the progress of the light. The cold water seeped through my clothes as I held my breath. The light swept closer. I tried not to shiver. 5 feet. 3 feet. The light passed over me and continued smoothly onward. I went limp in the mud, exhaling slowly as I listened to the squishing footsteps of a single man receding off to my left. As soon as the light was gone, I was up and running, my wet clothes chafing as I hurried to the safety and shelter of the trees. "Oh, fuck!" River greeted me as I entered the trees. "I thought that fucking sentry had you!" "And here I thought you only swore during training," I said wryly. "Nice to know you give it more use than that." "How did he not see you?" She practically vibrated, more animated than I'd ever seen her. "He should have been looking right at you." "It's the first rule of hide and seek. Don't be people-shaped." "Is that how you always do so good?" "I hid in plain sight in the lit backyard once. Had them going for more than 15 minutes. I smiled in reminiscence. Those were simpler times. For a while. The moon shone high between clouds before we found a house, and by that time I was shivering uselessly. River, who'd only had a quick dunking, ransacked the house to find clothes while I stripped. She ended up wrapping me in sheets and a couple of towels before doing the same for herself. We huddled together on a mattress after we laid our clothes out. They wouldn't dry completely, but those pants would be drier than they currently were. I absolutely refused to wear denim anymore. These tactical pants, whatever that meant, dried quicker and chafed less when wet. We rose before dawn, dressed, and decided to do some looting. Only problem was, everything of use in the place was long gone. We had no need for cutlery, couldn't carry the 2 mattresses in the house, and we'd already ruined the sheets, so we moved on. Midday found us hunting through our 4th house before we found anything usable. Sure, it'd been gone over, but only by people looking for immediate necessities like canned goods and weapons. The jackpot happened when we found a stash of seeds, carefully stored with paper towels in sealed plastic containers and labeled. "Heritage seeds!" I held them up, checking the labels through the light from the broken window. My mom had grown everything she could and had brightened our ancient house with flowers. She'd harvested seeds from both vegetables and pretty flowers and replanted the following year. Her and her friends traded seeds like kids traded Marvel figures, so I actually had a vague idea what to do with these. I used a pillowcase as a sack and dumped them in, then continued the search. "Hey, Captain!" River called. "There's a car in the garage!" "Ooh, let me see!" I dodged through the empty house, hefting my bag as if it were Christmas Eve and I was Santa. I deflated at the sight of the 2-year-old Kia sedan. Useless, damn it. Why is it useless? Can't you just take the parts you need from here? No, I sighed. I hated to pop her bubble, but over the years I'd found fewer and fewer people who could find the radiator, much less understand car talk. Parts are pretty specific. They won't work unless they're in a car that also has a chip. Mine doesn't, which is why it still runs. But maybe there's coolant or something. After a thorough search, we had to admit defeat. Assholes couldn't be bothered keeping any extra fluids on hand. Not that they'd likely work, but still, a girl could dream. You know, River said, considering the house once we were outside, her hands on her hips. Places like this are usually subdivided. The original house could be much larger and richer. Maybe if we found that one. Sounds like a plan. Yeah, we never did find that house. Thus ends chapter 22. Thank you so much for joining me here. I will drop a link to my link tree so you guys can go and check it out if you want. You can get the ebooks or whatever if this tickled your fancy. In the meantime, thank you so much for joining me. I'm glad you were here. If you did enjoy this, do please drop a like. It's nice to know that I'm not talking to myself. Or a comment or something. Let me know if you liked it. Like I said, it's just nice to know that I'm not talking to myself. I'll see you next week.